Today is June 24th, 2024. My name is Rob Carr of Kalamazoo Right to Life. This is Pro-Life Week. Well, over the weekend, President Biden, Vice President Harris, their allies in Congress and in the media, as well as all their campaign staffers, made a big splash. They made a big effort to focus on the second anniversary of the Dobbs decision, which was June 22nd of this year, 2 days ago. And I mentioned before that the Biden team has already, telegraphed the fact that this is going to be one of the top 2 or 3 campaign issues this November. They're convinced that millions upon millions of American women are going to vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris solely on the basis of reproductive rights. They're not going to be concerned about pocketbook issues, about food prices or gas prices. I saw today here in Kalamazoo that my wife gassed up our car this morning. It was $3.39, and in the evening, it was $3.89. Now that's a big jump in one day. Anyway, gas prices, food prices, mortgage rates, crime, fentanyl, immigration. There's a lot of things that Joe Biden can be found at fault with. And to think that women are going to vote just on the issue of abortion, I think is selling a lot of women short. They're far more complicated and multifaceted than just a one-trick pony, abortion. So I don't think it's going to work. True, there will be a disparity between the men voting for Trump and the women voting for Biden, but I don't think it's going to be enough to turn the tide. Okay, so over the weekend, the Biden team held 50 events strategically geared to the Dobbs decision. And of course, their main target is Donald Trump because Trump is solely responsible, from their point of view, he's solely responsible by putting those 3 Supreme Court justices on the court: Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett. And those 3 justices tipped the scales in favor of overturning Roe v. Wade. Okay, so Biden puts out a statement, and I'm going to be reading parts of it, and I'm going to be throwing in my own commentary, as you would expect. Okay, and this is part of the Biden statement. Quote, 2 years ago today, Donald Trump's Supreme Court majority ripped away the fundamental freedom for women to access the health care they need and deserve. Okay, now this is me. Our Declaration of Independence says that we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But the right of life was first and paramount. Biden talks about healthcare. But healthcare does not include terminating the life of another human being. Okay, I continue with Biden. Quote, the consequences have been devastating. In states across the country, Trump's allies have enacted extreme and dangerous abortion bans, many with no exception for rape or incest, that are putting women's lives at risk and threatening doctors with jail time. Actually, in the last point about jail time, who's getting the jail time? It's pro-life activists who are demonstrating at abortion clinics, trying to prevent the killing, but they're the ones going to prison. Women aren't going to prison for exercising their reproductive right. Okay, So let's unpack that whole concept, the term about devastating consequences enacted extreme and dangerous abortion bans. Devastating consequences. Devastating consequences. I think of the 64 million babies aborted since 1973. That is devastating. Those are devastating consequences for our body politic. During the Civil War, we lost about 600,000 men, North and South, killed. But with abortion, we reached that number of 600,000 in about 9 months. And the Civil War was the kind of the defining conflict in our country, between the right to own slaves and the right to be free. Okay. Let's look at the issue of lynching, primarily Southern whites lynching Black, primarily men, for no reason at all, really. Between 1880 and 1964, 3,445 Black people, like I said, primarily men, were lynched in our country, almost exclusively in the southern states. It's 84 years, just under 3,500 people lynched. I am not justifying lynching. Don't take me out of context. The lynching was a heinous crime, and every single person involved in lynching should have gotten a life sentence or perhaps even a capital punishment. Lynching was a heinous crime. Okay. So how many days would it take, dealing with abortion now, how many days would it take for American abortion providers to abort 3,500 babies? Less than 2 days, about a day and a half. Less than 2 days, and we would equal the same number of Blacks lynched in the South over an 84-year period. But in abortion, those numbers are matched in a day and a half. Okay, let me continue with Joe Biden. Quote, Donald Trump is the sole person responsible for this nightmare. He continues, for him, these cruel state bans are a, quote, now he's quoting from Trump, a beautiful thing to watch. And they're just the beginning. This is a man who brags about returning Roe v. Wade, has called for women who access reproductive health care to be punished, and says he would rule as a dictator on day one. If given the chance, there is no question he would ban abortion nationwide, with or without the help of Congress. You don't have to take my word for it, said Joe Biden. His advisors have already laid out the plans to do it, unquote. Okay. Well, let's get this out of the way. He said he would rule as a dictator on day one. I think what Trump said was that he would rule as a dictator on day one and only on day one. From day two onward, in his second term, he would not. And I'm not even sure what he means by being a dictator for 1 day. Okay. So he says here that Trump is responsible for this nightmare. Okay, so saving the lives of unborn babies is a nightmare. Biden calls these pro-life laws cruel state bans. Somehow, killing a baby in the womb is not cruel. Dismembering a baby is not cruel. And Biden thinks Trump wants to impose a nationwide abortion ban. And he's talked about a 15-week ban. The whole thing is a lie. First of all, even if a 15-week ban would be implemented and enacted and signed into law, it only would prevent about 2 to 3% of all abortions. 95 to 97% of all abortions are performed in the first 12 weeks. So a 15-week ban would do nothing to stem the scourge of legal abortion. Okay. And Trump has said over and over again, he supports the Dobbs decision. The Supreme Court has given the issue back to the states, and the states determine abortion policies. Okay. Last comment here by Biden. Quote, now he's talking here about Trump enacting an abortion ban. And Biden says, I will never let this happen. Everywhere I go, I hear from people who are worried about the state of reproductive health care in America. My message to America is this: Kamala and I are fighting to get your freedom back. And we won't stop until we restore the protections of Roe v. Wade for every woman in every state. Just a sampling here of how extreme, how radical the Democrats really are when it comes to abortion rights. They just don't see the baby at all. They don't see the baby. Now, they've accused us of saying, you don't see the woman. All you see is the baby. And once the baby is born, the pro-life movement throws them under the bus. Well, that is a lie. That is a lie. Pregnancy care centers really are reaching out for women in crisis pregnancies, and they are giving furniture, clothing, counsel, love, recommendations, options for young moms to choose life for their babies. We do not throw a newborn under the bus. That is just absolutely untrue. We care for mom and baby, not just that baby. So when you vote in this November, remember Joe Biden's words. Remember how pro-abortion, how radically pro-abortion Joe Biden really is, and vote accordingly. And I'll just kind of close with that biblical concept about Joe Biden, that he chooses to gain the whole world and he'll lose his soul. He would lose his soul. With that, I'll let you go and I'll see you next time.